Hello everybody, this is the start of the functionalist view of education, and it will only be a very short introduction today because we've only got 15 minutes left of class. So your heading, everybody, is the functionalist view of education, and we're just going to do a very brief introduction and maybe do the first major point. So in your notes, please, we're looking at an introduction, and I'd like you to write down the role of education. Now in class, we've just had a discussion about what the role of education was from our opinion, and we talked about loads of different ideas. The whole point of this is saying, so what is the purpose of education? From a functionalist perspective, they have a very positive view of education. So I'll write that up here. They have a very positive view of education. Just forgive the noise. So they have a very positive view of education, and they think it has a great purpose for our society. The whole point of education from a functionalist perspective is it benefits society and every individual. So from a functionalist perspective, they have a very positive view of education, and they believe it benefits society and every single individual that experiences it. Now the reason why it benefits society and every individual is because what education does, I'll put it here, education maintains social order. I'm going to write social order in red. Education maintains social order. Just like any other institution. Just going to get rid of the dirt stuff for a minute. There it goes. Alright. Because just like any other institution, education needs to keep society working. And it does that through the two processes that you already know, which is a value consensus and specialised division of labour. So, to put in the terms that we already know, the point of education is it keeps society working, social order. It does that by making sure that we all agree on the same values, a value consensus, but it also filters people into future jobs that suit their abilities. And that's what education does, just like every other institution. Now, it does that through three things, and that's what we need to talk about now. So, Durkheim and others, other functionalists, talk about the three functions of education. This is how it achieves social order. So there's a little heading underneath, please. Can you write three functions of education, please? And we'll talk about what it does. Now, for now, what I'm going to do is just list them. And in the next couple of lessons, what we'll do is go through each and every one of them in more detail. So I'll just list them for now, but they're all key phrases, so I'm going to put them in red as we go through. So number 1, number 2, number 3. So there's three really awesome things that education does that help social order happen. So that is secondary socialisation, skills provision, finally, role allocation. Alright. We're not going to annotate these yet. We're going to go through them one by one in class over the next 2 lessons. But can you just do something to these phrases, please? Can you highlight them? Can you do something to them so they basically sing off your page? You need to know these three phrases. You need to know it. And like I said, I mean, we've got 8 or 9 minutes left. I'm going to introduce secondary socialisation to you, and then we'll finish it off probably next lesson. see how it goes. So in a minute we're going to talk about each of these individually, and then hopefully it will assist our understanding. So then, let's go. So underneath that, please, the next heading is the first one of those, which is secondary socialisation. So can you do it in your heading colour, please? I think I've got it in red in here. I'm just going to change it to blue. So secondary socialisation is the next heading, and we need to talk about it. Hopefully we'll get it done in the time. So we already know what the phrase socialisation means because we studied it over the last couple of weeks. The word socialisation just means the process of learning aspects of our culture. So we learn aspects of our culture, of our society, through this process. But it's the second, or one of the second places that we learn it. Alright? There's one place, and we all know this because we talked about it last week, there's one place where primary socialisation takes place, which is the family. Whereas this is obviously in education, it's afterwards. So this is the second place, or one of the second places we learn those different things. Now they're on about, not knowledge and stuff like that, they're on about norms and values. And that's what we're going to write here. So we're talking about norms and values, our beliefs about the world and how we should behave. And we do that through something called the hidden curriculum. These are things that happen every day, we just don't see them, they're hidden. It's like subliminal messages that are taught throughout education all the time, and they're all about teaching us the right norms and values. So there's loads of different examples, and I'm just going to do them for you now. So the hidden curriculum are the things you learn in education, you often don't realise that you're learning them. So an example of that would be things like, I've got two here. Altruism, meritocracy. I'll give you a few more and I'll come back to those phrases in a minute. So it'd be things like, I don't know, teaching you things like your manners, how to respect authority, for example, it may sound strange if you refer to me by my first name. And we're just chatting in the corridor. You're all so polite, you lot. Hi, sir. Hi, sir. What are you doing? Hi, sir. No one ever just says, "Yeah, Harrison, how are you doing?" Because that's disrespectful. The idea is that you respect my authority by calling me a particular status that's elevated above everything else. And that's the idea of the hidden curriculum. It's teaching you about those skills. But it's also teaching you about loads of other things too. So it might teach you about things like, well, we've got these phrases here, altruism and meritocracy. We all know what meritocracy means. It means this idea that hard work brings success. Alright? And that everybody has equal opportunities. Equal ops. What would be interesting to see is if you remember what the word altruism means. If I give you 10 seconds to have a quick chat to see if you remember, and then we'll feed back. 10 seconds, please. Off you go.
Sorry.
Okay. So let's do it then. So what does altruism mean? Freedom. Alright. That society is more important than the individual. Alright? And schools teach us those things. You could even go, I mean, I'm not going to do this too much, but you could go really deep into this and say, what does school teach you? It could teach you about morality. What's right and what's wrong in certain scenarios. It could teach you all sorts of stuff. How to dress, how to appear yourself, how to communicate, all these different things. But this is what the hidden curriculum is. It basically teaches us everything about our society, often without us realising it. Now, if you were to study GCSE sociology, this is probably where you'd stop and you would continue then moving on. This is what the point of education is. However, what we're going to do now is talk about specific theorists and what they thought of education. Now, I've only got a few minutes left, so we'll probably only get Durkheim done, but we'll see how it goes. So, you don't have to do it split screen like that. We'll do Durkheim first. So just write Durkheim underneath these things, and we'll talk about it. So, as you well know, the Dirkster is the founder of Functionalism. And he thinks education is amazing. Alright? And we need to talk about what his view is. So, in your notes, please. In Durkheim's opinion, secondary socialisation is essential to maintain social order. Let's move out of the way. So education is essential to maintain social order. We need it. Alright? So education is essential to maintain social order. And basically, what he argues is, to maintain social order, education needs to stop two things from happening. Alright? What he argues is, the reason why it's so essential is because it prevents two things. I'm going to write here, it prevents. Keywords in red, please. Something called egoism and something called enemy. And once I've explained these two things, that'll be the end of the session. So it prevents egoism and enemy. Now, I don't believe we've covered these words yet, so we'll just make sure we know what they mean, and that's the end of class. So, use your common sense, please. If egoism, think about, if someone has a big ego, they think something about themselves compared to everybody else. So if I said to you, if I've got a big ego, how do I view other people? That's right. So egoism means that the individual feels as though they're better than society, that the individual values themselves over society. And Durkheim believed that was a really bad thing. The only thing that leads to is isolation, because people believe they're more important than everybody else. And as a result, it can only lead to people being distant and on their own and not part of a bigger culture, which is a really bad thing. And if you think about it, it's an opposite. One of the things that Durkheim's so big on education is altruism. That education teaches you that society is more important than yourself, and therefore by doing that, prevents that. Because what it does is it stops you thinking you're more important than everybody else. Enemy is another posh word that you need to know. What enemy means is, this idea is where people lose their norms and values, and therefore I'll put here where individuals lose their norms and values. When people lose their norms and values, it often leads to confusion. The bell might go, so I'll just be really quick. What I mean by that is, have you ever met someone who's gone off the rails at school before? And they've stopped doing what they're supposed to be doing, and they're getting into loads of trouble, and they're completely doing the wrong things. That's what enemy means. When people lose their sense of what is right and what's wrong. What education does, it teaches you the right skills to make sure you stay on track. Just stick with me for 2 seconds, please. The problem is if education didn't prevent these things, that could lead to a lot of social problems. Because if it doesn't prevent these things, enemy and egoism, last part of the lesson, enemy and egoism could lead to crime. If we don't sort it out, if you don't prevent these things from happening, it can prevent crime. But even worse, if we don't regulate these things, not only can it lead to crime, but it could also lead to something called suicide too, which is actually something that Durkheim specialised in. If you want to know more about that, you'll study it in year 13. Once you've done that, everyone, that's the end of the session. I'll just stop the recording. Thank you very much.